What's up guys, Mike here. Welcome to my channel. So I figured I can't really go hiking. It's a bit cold outside right now, and I think actually a lot of people will probably agree with me on that one. You know, it's winter time, people are coming off the holidays. So now is a good time of the year to actually work on your fitness level and work on maybe some of the things that were holding you back from hiking last year. You can work in the off season so that when the season actually does come, you're nice and ready for it, at least as much as you can be. Obviously, the climate that I'm in right now, I can't go hiking year-round, at least not with the gear that I have. So these exercises that I'm going to show you guys, they are going to be exercises that you can do at home with basically no equipment or very minimal equipment to say the least. I'll mention some techniques to make the exercises just a little bit harder so that way you can get the most out of them, especially as you progress. And on top of that, a lot of these exercises too are just helpful for overall knee health, hip health. You know, your knees and your hips take a pretty significant beating when you're hiking and backpacking. I broke it down into 10 exercises: good form, good balance, and good control. That's basically the three things that you want out of this. The weight doesn't necessarily matter. Concentrate on the form, concentrate on the control, add the weight later. So before we begin, a lot of these exercises, they target individual knees. There is some impact stuff here. We're talking like jump squats, things like that, where there is some impact. So if you have bad knees and bad ankles and you went to see your doctor about it, make sure that you get their permission first. So do these exercises, especially those harder ones, at your own risk. So pay attention to the cues, pay attention. It's all about mind-muscle connection here. Don't be frustrated, especially in the beginning. If your legs shaking around, that's okay. If you need to grab a chair to support yourself while you do some of these, absolutely fine. Don't overdo it. If something hurts, especially if something hurts, don't continue to do that exercise. As a matter of fact, go see a doctor, see what's going on, and get that sorted out. These are the 10 exercises that I chose for me that I'm going to use to get ready for backpacking this upcoming season. First up is going to be the heel down or step down exercise. Next up is going to be step up exercise, followed by face pulls. After that, we've got McGill Airplanes. Also got the Physioball Curls for the hamstring. Then after that, we get into a little bit more of the cardio session, because you do have to keep your cardio up. It's not just all about correcting your imbalances, it's also making sure your heart can actually take it. So I've got some jump squats. I also include the jump squats because they have a little bit of an impact, so you get to work on your ankle strength. Some lateral hops, which is basically jump squat just side to side. Also, I've got a low to high twist, either with weight or without weight, and that's just to get some twisting movement. And then after that, we've got multidirectional lunges. Same thing, getting a little bit of a cardio effect, just moving your leg in three different directions. And then also the farmer's carry, which is, I think, really important for your stability, especially while you're walking. So with that, don't forget to like or subscribe. I would really appreciate that. Helps the channel grow, helps get these videos out there. Also share this video with other people that you might think are interested. It is the off season. If you have somebody that's thinking about going backpacking or thinking about hiking, this is a good chance for them to start getting ready for it. So with that, let's get into it. Alright, I'm doing this video in the basement of the house, and sometimes the basement, if it rains a lot, get a little bit of water pulled up in certain areas, so I moved the stuff around. So I apologize for the bit of the mess. I probably should have cleaned up a little bit before I did the video, but sorry, I didn't. But anyway, the first exercise is going to be the step down or the heel down. I call it the heel down because I like to get the heel down first, because to me that helps keep my foot flexed for one, and it also mentally reminds me to keep this leg straight and this leg tight. So what do you have to do? As you can see, I'm just in the basement. I've got the set of stairs here, so that means you probably have a set of stairs somewhere in your house. This is going to be the working leg right now. This is going to be the leg that's going to be straight, and this is the leg that I want the heel to touch down first. I'm going to stand up like this, the heel down like that so my foot's flexed. And the key here is to hinge back. You don't want to round yourself like this. Hinge back and go down so the heel touches, and then go back up. And that's pretty much it. If you're not used to doing one leg exercises, this can be pretty challenging. And really what you want to do is, you want to also make sure when you're in this position, ideally you're leaning forward a little bit, your back is tight, so you want this to be straight. But this is a great way to check for imbalances and check for control in your knee. So what you don't want to do is you obviously want to make sure that your knee is traveling over the second and third toe. So you don't want your knee to cave in or to cave out. You can even grab something for balance and do this just a couple times, which makes it a lot easier, like that. You just gotta make sure that you do both sides. Now there are a couple ways to progress this exercise. To make this a little bit harder is to actually make the step a little bit higher. Now I don't have a higher step. Another thing you could do is keeping this leg here, you could put your leg out a little bit further, and what that does is it's going to increase the distance that your left foot, in this instance, is going to have to go down. So it makes it a little bit deeper. And that can be a little bit harder. So anyway, that's the first exercise, the heel down. Let's get on to the next one. Okay, so that's the first exercise. Now we're going on to the second exercise, which is the step ups. And again, I'm using the trusty steps here in the basement. You can use a stepper or you could use a bench like I have over there. And this is a good exercise. This is for quad strength in general. So for this one, in order to make it a little bit harder, this would be a good exercise to add a little bit of weight to. Even if you want, grab your hiking backpack, throw all the stuff in there that you normally would when you go hiking, and then start doing these step ups. That'll help build up your strength. That'll help build up your endurance. So to do this, I mean, it's pretty simple. Just stand in front of the stairs. Find the step that you want to work with. For me, it's going to be this second step right here. You could use this first step if you really want, and then just step up. And then step back down. So for me, whatever leg goes up, that's the leg that comes back down first. So up first on the right, that also comes down. I'll get down here to talk to you guys. That's the step ups. Nice and simple. I like that one. That just helps build the quad strength. Alright, so next up is a little bit of an upper body workout. In today's life, you know, we're stuck in front of the computer, we're working on our phones, I'm sitting at desks. We don't often do a lot of external rotation of our shoulders. That's a very important movement. They can move in that plane, and they're supposed to move in that plane. That helps keep all the shoulder, all the rotator cuff muscles in sync with each other. So I wanted to throw in a little bit of external rotation work specifically for this type of video, because backpacking, at least what I find when I'm backpacking and I have the weight on, my shoulders kind of want to just hunch over naturally to help keep that weight on my back. So for this one, I like to use a band. Honestly, even if you've never done this before, just getting in this position with your thumbs behind your elbows and pull back like this can be hard for people. Like, I'm struggling right now to get in this position. If your elbows are in front and they're leaning behind you, you're basically just turning this into kind of like a row. You really want this external rotation. And this is the lightest band I have. And I'm going to keep my thumbs out like this, like the thumbs up. And I'm just going to basically pull, but like I said, I'm trying to keep the thumbs behind the elbows as I'm doing this. And then I'm just going to try to hold it for like a second. Now what will happen with a lot of people, and you could probably even see me doing it right there, is what will happen is your rib cage is going to want to stick out like this to try to help compensate. Try to keep that rib cage tight and down as you're doing this. And that, trust me, that makes it a lot harder. If I did this, yeah, this is easy now, but if I'm trying to keep my rib cage down, this is a lot harder. So I like doing face pulls. So with that, let's get on to the next one. So next up, we've got the McGill Airplanes. So this is a good hip mobility exercise. I'm going to show you the supported version. You can do this without the support, but especially in the beginning, I think it's crucial to have the support just to help get that mind-muscle connection. So I'm going to make sure I'm supported. I want to make sure my knee is facing forward, and that's the trick here too. You want to make sure your kneecap is always facing forward. If you rotate your knee inward like this, that's not really doing the exercise that you want. If anything, that's going to harm your knee more than it helps at this point. And then really this is about your pelvis. But if you want to grab your pelvis, kind of like where it is here, and try to rotate it. And try to get that mind-muscle connection about where your pelvis is. we're going to start with our leg, the left leg down in this case, going to keep it planted. So a slight bend, you're going to grab your support, you're going to grab your right hip, this is the side of the pelvis we want to externally rotate outward. So keeping your knee straight, you're going to straighten your right leg, and then you're just going to simply grab your pelvis here and then open up like this. But what you'll find is if you're not used to doing this, this will light up some muscles that you might not even know you have. And then you do internal rotation as well on top of that. So you want to do external rotation, and then internal rotation. And you can see my knee, or my leg that's going behind me, the foot is always going to be in line with the knee. So wherever this knee is pointing, that's the way my foot is going as well. This is solid, this is all straight. Another thing you want to do is you want to make sure your back is straight. You know, you don't want to hunch over like this, so you want this to be a straight line as you're doing it. Now, this can get harder the higher your leg goes and the more you open it up. But for starting off, keep the foot low and just concentrate on trying to get that mind-muscle connection with your pelvis. And eventually, well, you could do an unsupported version, which makes it exceptionally more difficult. But I think the supported version is where most people get the bang for their buck. So that's the airplane, the McGill Airplane. Alright guys, we're hitting the floor with this one, and this is going to be a good exercise to work your hamstrings. Especially if you don't have access to a gym, you want to work on the hamstrings because they come around to the back of the knee. If the front of your knee is really tight, really strong from all the quad work you're doing, and your back knee isn't there to compensate, that's going to pull your knee in certain directions and that can cause some imbalances. The easiest thing to do, and I wish I had sliders to do this, is if you have a flat floor, like maybe in the kitchen, and what you do is you just put the towels underneath your feet, get in kind of like a plank, or sorry, a bridge position, like this, and then with the towels or sliders underneath your feet, you can just slide the towels back and forth, like that. Obviously I can't do it here because this doesn't slide very well, because your body weight in this position is more than enough to work your hamstrings. So one thing about the bridge position, this can put some stress on your shoulders and your neck. So if you have shoulder or neck issues, make sure you're aware of that. You obviously want to make sure you've got your core tight. A lot of people forget about the glutes in this position, but you want to make sure you squeeze your glutes. If I had the sliders, both my legs would go down, like that, except a lot smoother, and then back up. Now, what you can do though, is you get a Physioball. And you can do it this way. Now this makes it a lot harder because your legs are a lot higher. So the smaller the ball, the better. But for instance, this is the only size I have right now, so this is actually going to be pretty difficult to do. But we're going to try it anyway. And I just want to curl the ball up, like that. See, I'm losing some of the tightness because this is pretty hard. It's pretty difficult, like I said. Having a smaller ball would help out a lot for something like that. Another thing you could do to make that exercise a lot harder, what you could do is you could do single leg versions of it. But you go out like that, one leg up, one leg back. Form's not the best in that. You can see my glutes and my butt starting to collapse a little bit. I'm losing some of that core stability. So for me, that's actually a bit too hard. So that's a good example of an exercise I'm probably not going to do, at least not right now. I'm going to build up my strength doing the double leg version, and then eventually work on single leg versions, and then work my way up to it, because that would be ideal if I can do that. That's pretty much the essence of the Physioball hamstring curl. So let's get on to the next one. So these last 5 exercises, I didn't really mention it in the beginning, but these are really more meant to be cardio-based options to help get your heart rate up a little bit. So these are more really of a time target rather than a rep target. So the first exercises, which are more strength-based, those you probably want to hit like a certain number of reps, maybe 15 reps each side. I would say a good goal is to shoot for a minute of each of these exercises without taking a break. Obviously, that might be a lofty goal for you. That's okay. Start off with 15 seconds. Once you hit that, go up to 30 seconds. Once you hit that, do to 45 seconds. Once you hit that, try for a minute. See if you can get it. Okay, so I'm out in the garage now for good reason, because the next exercise is going to be the jump squats. And down in the basement, if I do a jump squat, I'm going to bash my head against the ceiling. The main reason I have a jump squat in here is because I want to have some sort of impact resistance to help build up some of that ankle strength. Hiking shoes in general usually have very supportive ankles. These actually have a pretty high arch, which is good for supporting your ankle. So the downside to having something like this though, with this much arch support, is all the muscle stabilizers and things like that for your ankle aren't going to be used as much. For one, you lose that muscle connection, that mind-muscle connection, and two, they start to get weakened. So when you take these shoes away and you don't have this top to help support your ankles like this, your strength isn't there anymore. So we'll get this out of here, and we'll do a jump squat. Jump squat is pretty much as simple as it sounds. You squat down. You want to make sure you go down as low, as comfortable as you can, and then jump up. When you're squatting down, knees are tracking over your toes. And you want to go for like 30 seconds, a minute, something like that. Some ways to modify this though, because not everybody can squat down and jump up crazy high or anything like that, is maybe just doing a light squat, like that. And just trying to explode up, maybe not necessarily leaving the ground. But eventually, you want to leave the ground. And it might just be a little bit, maybe just a little hop. But that's okay, there's nothing wrong with that. And that's it, that's the jump squat. You know, I forgot to mention, when you're doing the jump squats, there are ways to make the jump squat a little bit more difficult. One is obviously doing a pause at the bottom. Do that, and then explode up without hitting your head on the ceiling. That makes it a little bit harder having a pause. So for now though, we're going to work on the frontal plane, which is side-to-side movement. I know that's confusing, but that's what it's called. The frontal plane of movement is what separates the front part of your body and the back part of your body. So doing anything side to side is working in the frontal plane. If you're working front to back, like front to back, that's the sagittal plane, they call it. So you definitely want to have some sort of movement in the frontal plane for hiking. This will help strengthen, the glute med, the adductors, all those type of stabilizer muscles for your legs, especially ones that we don't use a lot. So that's why I include these lateral hops in this. And essentially all it is you kind of like almost start in a squat position, and then you just hop. One to the other, one side to the other. And that's it. Now, the lower you go, the harder it's going to be. So if I'm up here, this is a little bit easier. I'm not hopping with my leg out like this and then going over. That's bad. I can already feel my knee acting up a little bit. That's exaggerated. You might land like a little bit of an angle, that's not too bad, but try to keep your legs parallel the whole time. Now, ways to make it more difficult, go down a little bit lower and try to hop. Another thing you could do is grab some weight, and I can just let it dangle down, and I can just hop with the weight. Sometimes I load up the weight, I get heavier weight. These are just ways to modify it. This is the full 70-pound dumbbell that I have. Instead of hopping with it, maybe I just step back and forth. And that can make things a bit more difficult as well. Another way you can make this harder is if you had a band that went around your knees, maybe not around your knees, but like right above your knees, and you just do side to side. That helps work your adductors, glute med, all that. So that's pretty much it for the lateral hops. Alright, so another one of the cardio-based options that I have in the exercises that I'm doing the off-season is the low to high twist. Having some sort of rotational movement is pretty crucial. Your core can move and stabilize in all different directions. Some people call them axe choppers, where you're kind of starting up high, maybe on the side, which is good as well. Or you can go from high to low, that's another one. Not saying you can't mix these other directions in. I chose low to high because if you think about it, most of the time of what you're doing functionally is you're picking something up and putting it up somewhere high. Especially if you're hiking and backpacking, you're probably be picking stuff off the ground more than taking stuff down and putting it on the ground. So essentially what you're going to do is you're going to make sure that you're facing the direction that you're picking up, and then you're going to make sure you concentrate on your feet. Your feet should be moving as well. This is not just a stationary exercise. If this leg was planted right now and I want to twist like this, I'm putting a lot of stress on the inner part of my thigh right here. So you want to make sure that you twist your knee to go along with it. So starting from the low position, you don't want to round your back. So I try not to go all the way down to the ground because as you can see, I start to round my back because of that. That's because of my hip mobility. So I start with something about knee height. So back is straight. My left leg in this case is straight. I'm going to pretend to grab something here, and then I'm going to twist and bring it up to wherever I'm putting it. And then just repeat that. And again, do this for like 30 seconds. Maybe 15 seconds each side. Started on that side, now I'm going to go to this side. And just pay attention to my feet because they are moving with me. They're not necessarily planted per se, they're mobile. Doing this kind of exercise on a more slippery floor might be better than this kind of like, this is very grippy, this concrete that I have in the basement. Another thing you could do to make it more difficult, add weight. So if you have something, this is a 20-pound dumbbell right here. Since we're really trying to work on the rotational aspect, is bring it in, rotate, and then put it up on the shelf like that. Now you could keep your arms straight the whole entire time. And what that does is that's going to work your shoulders a lot more. Keeping your arms straight. So that's one way to make it harder. All right. So with that, let's get on to the multi-directional lunges. These are good because, again, if you go through these pretty quickly, you can get your heart rate up. And if you decide to add weights at some point in time, it's definitely going to add some strength to your legs as well, and just increase your core and your stability overall. It's basically a lunge in the front, a lunge in the side, and then a lunge behind you. So it's going to be a lunge in the front, a lunge to the side, and then a lunge behind you. And that's essentially what this does, what this exercise is. So the other side, a lunge in the front, a lunge to the side, and then a lunge behind you. And again, if you want to add weight, that'd be good. You'll find that doing the reverse portion of this, the lunge in the back, you can usually add a pretty hefty amount of weight to that. In the front, not so much because you're in the outstretched position. So I'm going to adjust the camera, go a little bit lower, because I want to show you a few things that you want to be aware of. Okay, so I really want you to take a look at my knees and the angle that they're going at. So when I'm doing the front lunge, I'll step back a little bit just to show you. When I'm doing the front lunge, you can see my right knee is over my right ankle. My left knee is also in line with the back of my foot. So what happens is sometimes, this is really helpful if you have a mirror, you'll see your left foot, the rear foot, kind of like swivel out like that. And as you can see, that's swiveling out. My right knee is also wanting to go this way because I'm kind of twisting a little bit. So you want to be careful not to do that. You want to make sure that they're both straight in front of you. And that's the same for going behind you. Move up so I don't hit the wall. So on the reverse side of that, you saw the front, now you see the back side. If I'm going behind like that, you can see I'm trying to remember where my heel is. And I know it's difficult, it's easier when there's a mirror in front of you, and sometimes I even lose track of it, especially if you start adding weight to this, and you forget about the back knee, but you always want to remember that. And then you just go down. And you can see, maybe you can't, but you can see that my heel is right in line, which means my toes are in line, which means this is all straight ahead. So the side lunge is a little bit more difficult because those of us with tight hips, especially if you go to add weight or something like that, it can be very difficult. So it's more like a step out and then kind of like a Cossack squat or a Cossack squat. I forget exactly how you pronounce the name. And it's essentially where you're kind of like going out and then you're squatting down like that. So I like to keep the legs parallel, or sorry, the feet parallel, go out, because as long as the knee is still kind of tracking over, you're fine. As a matter of fact, the way your knee is going in this very outstretched position is on a little bit of an angle. So having your foot on an angle like that and not directly parallel with this one is actually okay in this instance. So if anything feels amiss, you just want to make sure that you stop. Again, if you had weights, you just add the weight, maybe hold the weight in your hands, or maybe hold the weight kind of like a goblet squat, like up here, and then do the side lunge. The further you go out, the harder it's going to be, the more stress you're going to have on your adductors. As you build up mobility and just flexibility, you'll be able to get a little bit lower. But that's the side squat. That's it for the multi-directional lunges. I would say try to do those front, side, back, then right leg, all left leg. Just don't forget to do the other side. Again, it's more for cardio at this point. So maybe adding a little bit of weight, trying to do it for like 45 seconds or a minute. These you might be able to do a little bit longer just because you're not going in one direction. So because of that, you might be able to get 30 seconds, 45 seconds pretty easily right off the bat. Let's get on to the last exercise today, which is the farmer's walk. So the last exercise that I'm working on is the farmer's walk. In particular, this exercise, I'm doing it two different ways. One is a single side to work on some imbalances. Another one is heavier, but with both arms locked in. So if you have a weight that's too heavy and you start to lean a little bit in that direction as you're walking, actually, sorry, it'd be the opposite direction. You'd be leaning towards the weight like that. That's a good sign that the weight is too heavy for you. You really want to pick a weight that you can maintain and keep yourself straight as you're walking. You're going just to do a nice, slow, and controlled walk. So I'm going to walk out and walk back, and you can take a look at it and see. So right now, I'm just trying to keep my back straight as I'm walking. Turn around. So this is a great exercise to help build your grip strength, because you're going to be holding the weight for a while. I would do for a minute straight. That's ideally what I would do. I just grab that weight, walk around for a minute, and believe me, you will feel it after that, especially if you haven't done these exercises before. You will start to feel it. And again, obviously you have to do one side versus the other, so walking with the weight in my left hand. You want to try to make sure that you're keeping your chest upright as you're walking, good posture. You're not slouching over like this while you're walking, trying to keep your chest upright, your back tight as you're walking. And like I said, the reason I like to add a single side version is because it helps keep that in balance. If you have two weights, one on either side, you'll find that the other side, because it has weight in it, is going to compensate by itself naturally. So walking with one weight like this is a lot different than walking with two weights like this. This will really get your traps on fire, and it's just a great exercise overall. I would say start off doing that, maybe 30 seconds one side, 30 seconds the other, and then maybe 30 seconds with both sides. Alright guys, so that is all the exercises that I have in my workout program. So I hope you found something useful in here. If you did, do me a favor, smash the like button, share this video with friends, family, colleagues, somebody that you know that might be interested in this type of information, especially since it is the off season. It's a good time to get this stuff rolling and get this stuff out there. Along with that, if you're new to the channel, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. Make sure that you hit the little bell icon too so that you're notified when I post new videos. And if you do have any ideas for videos, drop them in the comments. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Don't forget to also follow me on Instagram at @thebuddhaman. That's more of the fitness stuff right now, along with my normal gym routine that I'm doing I'm also doing this stuff on the side. But I have a whole other program that I'm doing on the gym side of things, and you'll get glimpses of that. So if any of this fitness stuff is you find useful, check that out because there's tons of more information on there. With that, guys, I'm out of here. Have a good weekend. Well, it's a weekend now. Hopefully have a good day, whatever day it is. I have no idea what day I'm going to post this, but hopefully you have a good week, and I'll be seeing you guys in the future. All right, take it easy.